there, right? And that's a huge factor. I know you guys spend a lot of time on stress testing this and doing things you should never do with an airplane, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we kind of, when we do an airplane like this, especially something that's kind of an extreme segment of the market, trying to make foam go pretty much faster than it's gone before.
Yeah.
We had all the pilots flying it. We had, Allie and David and myself out there trying to break it regularly, doing every violent, nasty maneuver we could possibly throw at this thing, and it just took it. During development, we had some issues. If you were doing a full throttle outside snap, it might eject the canopy. So we worked on having a double magnet system that is quite strong. And when you guys see how much force it takes to pull off the hatch, you'll realize it is not going to come off in flight, even at the speeds that this plane can do.
Yeah, I bet. I've seen Allie's abuse towards airplanes, and I can only imagine what this thing went through. So,
yeah, I think he really enjoys that part of the job when you hand him a transmitter and say, "Here, try and kill this."
Yeah.
So, but actually, the development was a lot of fun. Buying on it, we reinforced it where we see it needed reinforcement. And just as a kind of a point here, the V900 I think has roughly 9 pieces of carbon in it. This has over 30.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot of carbon fiber in this airplane to make it stiff and strong and not twist and deform under the speeds. I know there's been some comments about people wanting a stronger V900, and if we did the same thing to this plane, I saw that in some of the comments on RCGroups earlier today after we announced it. And yeah, absolutely. We really went to town on this airplane to make it stiff and rigid. There's 2 solid carbon spars running across the middle of the wing, and then there's all the additional carbon spars going all the way out to the tip, crisscross spars, you name it, it's all in there. So, we did everything we could possibly throw at this airplane to make it extremely rigid and solid and just fly really good.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So what sort of the battery range is the V1200 best on? What have you found that you enjoy the most?
So this is the really cool aspect about this airplane is you can fly it on a 4S to a 6S battery. So 4, 5, or 6. Our Smart ESC is auto detecting, so you don't have to worry about plugging in a 4-cell and it's programmed for a 6-cell or anything like that. The 4-cell is actually kind of fun. I mean, it's right at 100 miles an hour straight and level, maybe 110, 115 in a dive. But it's a little bit lighter, it's a little floatier. But for me, the 6S 5000 is the go-to battery. You got the speed, you got the power, and it works.
So with that setup, hey Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, sorry.
No worries. We're just talking about batteries for the V1200, and Matt was talking about the 6S 5000. So Matt, does that battery have to ride all the way forward, or does the CG have a pretty good range on this airplane?
It does, but the nicest thing about this airplane is we actually put the battery pretty much directly on top of the CG. So even if you go from a 4S to a 6S, they basically sit in the same spot, which just makes it super easy for that aspect.
Nice. Well, that's really handy. Jason, have you flown this much, the V1200 in real life?
Not in real life a lot yet, but flown the RealFlight version a lot. Relative to that one, it's very similar.
Yeah, I noticed you have one sitting at your desk at the office. I don't know what version that sample is, but I was like, I wonder if he would notice.
No touchy. We have to see that video. No touchy.
I'm going to flying tonight. You should come out. You should bring it out tonight. You should go make a video tonight. Let's do it.
Oh, I can't tonight. I wish I could.
Oh, you got a hot date, buddy? Come on.
No, a hot date with my Jeep.
Okay. Looks like we got Jim T. Graham in the house. We got John Gruber and some dealers in here. There's got a lot of people in today. Well, folks, if you're in the chat on YouTube or Facebook and you'd like to know something or have a question for Matt, Jason, or myself, or the V1200 or RealFlight 9.5, if you want to see us fly a specific airplane offered in the all-new RealFlight 9.5, just holler. Jason, I set up the the multiplayer you can join. It's that RFHH Live one with the same password as last.
I just need the password.
I'll text it to you. It's okay. I'll text it to you. Here, I'm
getting old, so my
memory
doesn't look like it used to.
It's all good. So, Jason, while I'm texting this to you, let's talk a little bit about oh, do you have questions so far? Okay.
Yeah. It looks like Craig must have popped this one. A perfect question. Ken Simmons, will there be an upgrade price for RF 9.5 from RF 9 or just full price for the upgrade? The answer is free. So you will get a free update from RealFlight 9 to RealFlight 9.5. Everyone that owns RealFlight 9, no matter when you bought it, on October 1st, you're going to go online. You're going to do an online update, and that's going to give you RealFlight 9.5 that day at no extra charge. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, super cool. I know that was a sticking point in the past, but I'm pretty excited about that. How about our retailers, Jason? Are they going to get a disc in the mail? Is that how that's working this time? So they can get their demo unit, so you can be able to go in store and fly it too before you buy it if you wanted.
Yes, exactly. So some stores that have a RealFlight demo kiosk or shelf display, and they have one of our demo PCs, they will get a CD, DVD in a couple weeks here that allows them to update to 9.5. So probably sometime in November, you'll be able to walk in the store and try it there. And that includes, of course, all the new models, the new flying field, and the new virtual flight instructor lessons for the eFlight Habu STS.
Awesome. Well, cool. I had to mute you in RealFlight because you were reverbing back to me. I had to mute the whole game. I mean, can you turn your RealFlight mic off, Jason?
Yeah, sorry. I just muted it. Is it good now?
Yeah, I just wanted people to be able to hear the sounds, but yeah, no, it's good now. Perfect.
All right.
I was like, wait, where's this echo coming from? And then I realized it was the game.
You know, a few people have commented that the last couple weeks, you know, we weren't supposed to use our beta versions of RealFlight 9.5 for our live sessions, but both Steve and I were guilty of it.
It's kind of hard.
I can't believe this. There were like split seconds where you or I were scrolling through the model list and people saw some of the new models and took screenshots, and they're like, oh, this one's going to be in RealFlight 9.5. I know it. So,
whoops, we leaked everything. Well, that's the unfortunate nature of doing it live. Sometimes you don't get it right perfectly. But so let's go through the model list, Jason. I'm going to pull up the model screen here.
So many, yes.
Yeah, so let's see, starting from
Habuti.
So we got the Habu STS. We've got it on 3S with the landing assist sensor, 3S without, 4S with the landing assist sensor, and 4S without. So that's pretty sweet. I'll fly that here in a minute. We've also got the
Night Timber X. Night Timber X was there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Night Timber X. So
and what's cool about Night Timber X, the reversing does function. So you can practice the backing up on the ground, which when you're taxiing backward, you have to remember your rudder is backward. So when you go right, it goes left. It takes some getting used to. And then also the reversing. Yeah, there it is. Found it. There you go. So also the reversing does work in the air, much like the real model. So it doesn't stop the airplane in a vertical descent, but it'll almost slow it down to a stop. It's pretty cool. Yeah, look at and you know that's exactly what the real model would do.
I flew before when this was way earlier in beta. That was one of the things I was like, it was turning the model completely backwards, and I was like, it doesn't do that. And so I'm glad we got it right, because it was. Obviously, we had to tune on it. It was well before any of the guys have played with it, but it stopped the model dead in the air. But in real life, that's just not the case. So it definitely does it now, though. That's cool. Perfect. That's like exactly how it works.
Exactly.
Anyway, all right, I'm going to land this thing, and then we'll jump to another one. So we have the P51 in here as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the P51D
1.5. Amazing 1.5 meter, yes.
Yeah, and then what else we got? We got Turbo Timber. Which you and I were guilty of flying, and people were like, wait a minute, that's not enough.
Yeah, I don't know why we forgot. We're like, oh yeah, this is definitely in RealFlight now.
Yeah.
And there's also versions both with and without slats, and 3 and 4S on both those, I believe. So
yeah,
the original Timber as well as the Turbo.
With slats for us, there's the floats with slats as well. We've got the Twin Otter, or as Jason likes to call it, the Twatter.
The Twatter.
Yes. That's Twatter on floats as well, which those floats do come in the box.
I love that airplane a lot. And in the simulator, it flies just like the real thing. It's amazing.
And then, let's see, UMX Turbo Timber is new, right?
Uh-huh, yep. We actually don't have many UMX models in the sim, so that's a big addition right there.
Yeah, well, that's one of the most popular E-Flight planes of all time, well, the UMX Timber in general.
Yep.
We got the V1200, which we were just flying, so that's exciting. We've got the new Viper. Oh, no, that's been in there. Sorry, that's been in there. Right? The Viper's been in there? Yeah.
Viper's been in there, yep, but V1200, of course.
Yep. And then, what else is in here, Jason? We've got the Synergy helicopter, the 696 is in here, which I've got to scroll way down, but
high performance 12S powered bad boy. Flies awesome.
Yeah,
It makes me miss helicopters. Yeah.
That's the 696 there. That's going to be nice. Did I miss anything in here, Jason? I was trying to.
Yeah. So Hobby Zone Aeroscout, which
yeah.
we did have in Trainer Edition, of course, is now in RealFlight 9.5. And don't forget your new favorite, Steve, Hangar 9 Pits.
Yes. I'm definitely flying that next.
And the Pits is in there 2 ways. It's got a version with the gas 60cc and then also the electric version, and they do fly different. There is different power band, obviously different sound. No smoke though. That's the only thing I was bummed about. No smoke.
We can ask them to fix that.
Smoke it up.
Yeah, I'm building one of these right now in my living room. Don't worry, I'm not married, so it's okay. No one's gonna complain. But
maybe that's why you're not married, Steve.
But yeah, maybe when it smells like epoxy when you're watching TV, it's a bad thing. But
you need ventilation, man.
It's just epoxy. What could go wrong? So cool. All right, so Hangar 9 Pits is in here. I'm building mine with the Sato FG61 as what Ali built his with. Look at that. Oh yeah, that's nice. Do we miss anything else, Jason? What other airplanes we got?
Flight F16 Thunderbirds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one's been out a while, and I'll be honest, guys. We actually were going to put that into RealFlight 9, but we ran into a licensing situation, and so we had to hold it. But now it's in here, and man, it flies just like the real thing. It's awesome. You can do the high alpha. You can do the fast passes, the point rolls, the slow rolls. I just love the way. Look at that. There it is, high alpha. Steve can do it. Lower. Lower. Lower.
That's about as low. I feel like that's pretty good. He's doing some. No, that's great. That flies really close to the. I mean, that's darn perfect, honestly. And the speed is right. This is one of my all-time favorite E-Flight EDFs. Just from
2 more very popular E-Flight EDFs are in there. Would be the F15 64mm and the new A10 twin 64mm. Oh, geez. Oh,
I was just trying to land it. Okay, so we got the F15.
What was the A10? A10.
Is that? I missed that. Oh, it's got to be upright A.
Yeah, that was a sweet ride.
There she is. Awesome. A10. Very cool. Matt, what other airplanes did you work on this A10 or was this David? Who did this one?
That was actually Kevin Berner.
Oh, Berner did this. Okay.
Yep,
That's
Kevin
right. I remember
did a great job on it.
Yeah. Yeah, this thing is so fast. When I first flew it, I was like, "What? That's crazy."
Yeah, we were all when we got it, we were just blown away by the performance and, truthfully, the flight time. It actually has a really decent flight time for being a twin-engine EDF, and the performance is there. You can do all the A10 maneuvers you want, and just looks amazing and is fun flying it that way.
Yeah, this thing is awesome. Jason, you flying? What are you flying? Are you just
I was trying to find the updates so we could explain to people how to do the update next week. We're blessed to a degree because we're using the Steam version, and one of the benefits to the Steam is every time you open it, it updates immediately.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if I'm not seeing the update button because we're in the Steam iteration.
That's very possible.
Because I could have sworn it was under simulation. So, guys, I apologize that I don't have the answer for that. I see a number of guys have asked that question. But basically, on October 1st, my recommendation is to you're just going to go online, open RealFlight, and it should update. You may have to do something manual through the simulation tab, but basically, it's more or less automatic. Should be pretty quick and simple. Now, I am a little worried. I was thinking about this earlier. You heard me ask that question. I'm like, I wonder what happens if a bunch of people try to update to 9.5 at the same time.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll be equipped to do that.
Who's flying that one?
That was me.
Yeah, that one's not in there.
Oh. No, look at this one.
Oh no.
All right, let's do this. It's all good. So,
no.
all the RC groups is gonna be lit now.
Yep. Sorry, guys, not done. Not in there.
It's coming soon. Don't worry.
Avert thine eyes. Avert thine memory.
All right, they want me to fly the P-51.
Yes, fly the P-51. So May Walker had a good question. Is there a way to redeem your existing RealFlight license via Steam for the ease of update? And so, no, you can't. If you buy RealFlight in a store or you buy it from our website, you get the boxed version, which has a serial number. That only works then with the DVD or a download installation from our RealFlight website. So Steam is kind of a self-contained unit. So if you want that Steam update, automatic update ability, you have to buy it through Steam. It's the same price if you buy the software only on Steam. And then the benefit of Steam is that if you install it on a different, or here's a great example. This happens a lot, happened to me as well. So I had RealFlight 7.5. My computer died, so I bought a new computer. I had thrown the box away. I threw away the DVD. I didn't have my serial number anymore. And so I, could have figured it out maybe and contacted at the time Habaco and gotten a serial number to reinstall it on my new machine. But with Steam in particular, I wouldn't have had to worry. I could have just downloaded Steam and boom, loaded it right from my Steam account. So there's some plus and minus to Steam in different people's eyes, but I see a ton of pluses. The biggest thing for me is that I can go even to, let's say, a remote machine that I'm working on somewhere else and download it real quick and use my RealFlight license on that other machine. So yeah, some interesting things. So
I tried the 16-point maneuver, Thomas, but it failed. It was close though. It was maybe
how many
like
did you get?
I got about 12.
So here's a fun thing and Matt can speak to this. So the V1200 is very fast. And it reminds me of pattern flying back in the 90s. So the guys that were doing the precision aerobatics were flying these like rip-roaring, they were like 120 sized airplanes with a tuned pipe and retracts, and they were just hauling butt like 130 miles per hour and then doing point rolls. And I think Matt can attest to this, that the faster you go, the easier point rolls and slow rolls are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for some reason, the plane doesn't fall as much when you're on its side. It allows you to make the right rudder input and stuff like that. So yeah, I totally agree that fast airplanes, especially airplanes like the V1200 and V900 even, those were kind of optimized to have very even side area so that they can knife edge well. All those kind of things were kind of taken into consideration, and that's why you still see kind of the hump or bulge on the bottom of the V1200 because we didn't want to change that aerodynamic flying ability. The V900 flew so well and was so precise, and we just wanted to keep every bit of that. So basically the airframe aerodynamically is unchanged from the 900, but structurally it is a whole nother animal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be glad to hear that because, there's some guys that have had bad landings or, maybe even had a small crash with their V900, and you can repair it, but it's never as structurally sound the second time around. So, some guys have had issues with their airplane, not holding together in the air on subsequent flights after a crash. But the V1200 is a tough cookie. It's not only a different internal structure, it's different foam, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's a much stiffer foam that Steve and I were actually talking about this right before you joined, but it kind of almost gives the feel of a balsa wood or composite airplane being so stiff. It's very dent resistant, has a much smoother finish. You don't get that kind of alligator skin look. It just looks very clean, which I really like. That helped with the speed, truthfully, to give a better surface finish on the airplane.
Really? Oh, so yeah, I guess you would know that between the CNC sample, which would have been kind of like EPS foam, pretty rough.
Exactly.
Oh, very interesting to hear. But I think what surprises me the most about this airplane, and I don't know that our marketing really tells the whole story, and I think that the videos that Pilot Ryan and Rich Baker did can help with this, is to see how slow it can fly. Did I take you out?
No, we just mid-aired.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm good. See, fly slow. Stay together.
Actually, the funny thing is we had the onboard GPS through our telemetry, and David was doing some flying, and we wanted to see kind of what the speed range was. How slow can it go? Just to be on the other end of the spectrum, even though it's a high-speed airplane. And literally with full elevator on touchdown on a pretty calm day, we were hitting right around, call it 25 to 27 miles an hour as the wheels touch the ground. Full elevator, fully flared, that kind of thing, trying to 3-point it down. So from 25, call it 27 to 140 plus, that's a pretty amazing speed range.
Yeah. I don't know that guys probably realize that 25 mile per hour speed at landing or slow speed without stalling is very good. It may sound fast, but it's not for a relatively, clean airplane that can fly so fast. Yeah.
And for the weight of it, for the swept wing, all those things can be detrimental to low speed handling. So the fact that it handles as well as it does, it's very friendly. We're really pleased with the overall performance at all speed ranges. I mean, I actually don't mind cruising this thing around at half throttle sometimes just because it's fun. And then,
it is fun to fly airplane. Exactly. It's not a one-trick pony. It's not a just go fast and then land after 2 minutes or rip roaring around. You can throttle back, cruise slow, and then you can perform lots of aerobatics.
Oh, absolutely. This thing does some amazing tumbles and snaps. It actually excels. If you watch the product video, there's one snap I do, just a single snap, and it is just super clean, just pops out exactly level. And then another part of the video, you actually see me do a vertical tumble, and it can wind itself up pretty nice. It's kind of fun to see. So, definitely a wide range. It's not just for going fast. Think of it as a fast sport plane kind of thing almost. It can do a lot more than you think. It can knife edge, of course, loops, point rolls, all that stuff is well within its capability, and it does it well.
Mm-hmm. So RC Captain Mike, I think that's his new lead into his name these days. But Mike Keller had a good question or good observation. Looks like the tail boom is thicker proportioned, but I don't think that's actually true. Is that right, Matt?
No, this is exactly the same proportions as the V900. However, like I said, with all the carbon that we've added into this airframe, there is very large square carbon spars running basically where we saw issues that people had with the V900. And again, the problem with the V900 is if you touch down even off level the littlest bit, it could slide sideways and put just a lot of side load on that poor little tail. It's fairly thin, granted, but if you land sideways, it gets caught in the grass. That's just a lot of stress on that airframe. So, having a much larger carbon spar running all the way back and then in the vertical fin and in the horizontal stabilizer. I mean, like I said, there's carbon everywhere in this airplane to make it rigid, stiff, precise. It's like I said, it's just a different animal than the V900 even. It's a lot of fun to fly and very accurate. Just a good all-around flying airplane that happens to go really fast.
And look good doing it too.
Exactly.
So I want to point that out. What you just said, Matt, I think is very important. A lot of guys have said, "Oh, the tail came apart on my my V900, or the spar came out." And I'll admit, myself and many other guys here at the office have flown V900s a lot, and we've never had those issues. But I will say the difference is that we're relatively careful when we handle the airplane. We don't drop it. We don't bang the tail into the door frame getting out of the car. And then also we haven't had those issues with it sliding in on landing or bouncing around on landing or cartwheeling. And so one thing, though, that I did do with the last V900 that I built is I did put a piece of clear packing tape right kind of below the leading edge of the horizontal stab on the fuselage. And, and I have had a rough landing with that particular model, and it did not crack the fuselage there where some other guys have had it crack. So I would recommend that as a very simple potential fix, so to speak, is just put that clear tape on right from the get-go, even if it's not broken, and that maybe will help it from breaking down the road.
Yeah, and again, it totally depends on the flying field. There's nice smooth grass. You're landing at Joe Nall grass or Ceph grass, whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Yeah, you can actually kind of touch down on the belly and keep the wings off from grabbing. But if even Eli Field can get a little rough some days. And I've caught the airplane a couple times. I did break a tip off the stabilizer on the CNC sample flying at our old building. But that's about the worst I've experienced on landing, just because I try and get it slow. I always land in high rates. I make sure I run out of energy completely before I touch down, so it has less momentum to cause damage to the airplane if it does catch a clump or something and start to turn sideways.
Yep. So that's the thing to keep in mind, guys, is that, in my experience in the hobby after many, many years now, when a lot of guys complain about airplanes coming apart in the air, it's usually not because of the design of the airplane. It's usually because of some handling or misuse kind of in the process. And the V900 is a good example of a model that I've seen guys land hard and then fly it, and then a flight or two later, it comes apart in the air. And, had the airplane not been compromised in a bad landing or even a slight crash before that, that wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm. Jason, we're all not perfect pilots, so. But that's why we have RealFlight, so you can become better.
Exactly.
I just want to point out two of the most amazing saves I had on this airplane just now in the simulator that nobody was watching while everyone else was watching. I landed it wrong and then I saved it, so it's pretty legit. But
And that's, I used to work in a hobby store before I started at Horizon, and I still tell this to people whenever we go to trade shows or events or anything who ask about, should I get a simulator? And, literally the cost of a simulator these days is less than the cost of a single airplane. So if you take off in the simulator and figure 9 it, you just saved yourself what you would have done with the real airplane. So, you can fly all these different airplanes. You can see what facet of RC flying you enjoy and want to pursue, and go down that avenue and train on this and get that much better. So when you actually go to the flying field, you have that extra confidence in what you got and that you can handle it. So I use the simulator. I've said this, I think, on my last RealFlight, that when I first learned how to fly ailerons, I built a airplane with an aileron wing after I had a 3-channel wing, probably dihedral wing on it. Went to the hobby store and spent an hour flying RealFlight 3, I think it was. I picked like the ultimate or some extra or something aerobatic and I just flew it for a straight hour. I drove right to my flying field and flew my 4-channel wing, and ended up retiring that airplane after 100 flights. So, that's the benefit of the simulator. It really can teach you the hand-eye coordination, just the comfort to move to that next step. Whether it be flaps or retracts or a warbird, you can try it all and not risk an airplane that you spent real money on.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I started out with RealFlight G3.5, so roughly same time frame, Matt, and that's where I taught myself how to fly. I've said it numerous times on this live show. It's literally how it started my RC air career. I was on the car side when I was like 13. When I started working for a Hobbytown USA, that was when there weren't customers in the store, and I probably should have been doing something else. I was flying RealFlight, and that's what, everyone was like, oh, you need to go to the field and buddy box with somebody. And I was like, no, I'm going to build this great plane, Super Sportster, and that's going to be my first plane. And it was, and all because of RealFlight. And now it's kind of cool to be working on the brand and working, it's part of Horizon now. So super cool stuff.
Yeah. That's an awesome thing to be doing.
Yeah.
Michael Klein has a good comment here.
Hello, Michael. I wish we had some pylons. We need some pylons.
Yeah, there is a pylon field. Go to the it's one of the desert fields. It's called like Pylon Race Field.
Is it a photo field?
No, it's not. It's in the 3D fields.
Stop. Sure. What's it called?
Oh, Desert Race or something like that.
Well, that seems pretty like a duh for me. Obstacle course? No. Well, D is up here. So.
Oh, I think you just passed it. Did you see the pylon?
There
it is. Oh, that's one of them, but I don't think that's the
Air
best
Race
one.
Desert?
Yeah, I think this one. But I believe the reason they call it Air Race is it's really supposed to be better for FPV view.
Right. Well, do you want that one or do you want to do Air Race Stadium since this has big...
If we could do that, but I think we'd have to change our position to be by the pylons. That's the bummer. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the desert pylon race is there's a couple of games in the simulator here that you basically have to fly through it. And one of the fun things we used to do at the office when we had this set up, after 5 o'clock, is we'd all try and see who could beat each other's time not flying FPV through all those pylons, and kind of Red Bull Air Race style.
Pretty hard.
A couple of guys got some clean runs, but every once in a while you'd completely miss, have to do a quick 360. Your time is just wasted. So. Yep.
I can see that being very difficult.
Well, here, I'll bring us to this Air Race Desert, and we'll see what we can come up with. I feel like there's at least we could probably do.
Are there ones at the ends of the runway? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking ends of the runway. This is gonna be fun because you can't. Yeah.
There it is. Yep.
We just gotta pick a direction. Are you in here too?
I'm working. I got a UMX Turbo Timber, which probably not the best choice.
I don't think you're gonna win. All right, we gotta all get on the runway.
You gotta be like 4 laps in while I'm going around the first pylon.
We'll say we can.
All right. Whew, I don't know about this.
So to the right or to the left? I guess to the right. Right?
See, it's go fast, turn left.
Oh, so we're gonna be kind of. All right, I'm good.
Yeah,
with go fast.
it's a counterclockwise pattern.
All right. Well, let's just all get in the air then, I guess, and then we'll start coming in. Airboat start. Oh, I gotta get a safe. No.
Oh,
Matt died already.
I hit that dead center. That was amazing.
Nailed it. Those are it's hard to gauge, which, you know,
Yeah.
admittedly in the simulator, depth perception is more of an issue. But even in the real world, trying to pylon race is really hard because of depth perception.
Yeah. I lost something.
I think I might have to go lower.
There's a couple of pilots I've flown with over the years and have worked from that. Just their depth tree was not even close to. Yeah, I could tell, and I've never figured it out. I tend to err on the side of caution when it comes to avoiding obstacles. So.
I think I broke my prop. Oh yeah, I broke my prop. Oh look, I just have a fuselage. I have no wing.
You don't need no prop. It goes fast enough.
Bummer. Try again.
I don't think this is gonna be as clean.
This is hard.
This is hard. It's also hard because you're not able to see the peripheral to like where to line up. I think that makes it a lot more difficult.
I would tend to say that is probably the one downside to a simulator is you just don't get that peripheral view that you do when you're at a flying field, and that I've seen a lot of people, you know, at trade shows and events have a lot of trouble finding the field after they take off just because they can't see it. They don't know kind of where they're standing in relation to the field based on that. So I would say that's the one downside to a simulator. I would think that, you know, doing something like the you know, the FPV goggles, or not goggles, but like Oculus Rift or something. Yeah, something like that would actually make it probably work because you could look around as you're flying. But
yes, the VR goggles have a wider field of view, and you can also just tilt your head a little bit, and it's just like you're standing at the flying field when you're using VR and RealFlight.
Exactly.
Oh, keep hitting that pylon, man.
I'm getting the hang of it now. You just got to get your points lined up.
Are you doing it at full throttle? Because it's tough at full throttle.
No, I haven't left the throttle.
It is tough. All right, I'm on low rates now. That seems to help.
Oh, I don't even know what I'm in. I feel like I'm in high rate. Maybe not.
Holy crap. Wow. Oh, I don't like those tents.
Oh!
That was
hit me, or did we both have the pylon? What the heck?
That was right into the pylon.
That was spectacular. Wow, I gotta watch that back on the replay.
By the way, and I will give it to the RealFlight guys who designing how this thing breaks apart to be pretty darn realistic when you're talking about how it hits something like a pylon at 140 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah, it's confettis, man. Look at that. That's spectacular.
That was awesome.
So, Matt, I saw one of the comments earlier before Jason got on, but the people want to see a stress testing video of these products. I wonder if that's something we can work in on a release of something in the future where, you know, it's like, all right, this is stress testing day, and you know, we show people what we put these models through before they're ready to be signed off on.
I just need to call Allie and say, hey, you want to do a quick video? And he will show you what we put these products through.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll come out there any day of the week if you're like, hey, we're going to attempt to break an airplane and film it. Do you want to come out? He'll be out there in 3 seconds.
Yeah, I agree. But like I said, you know, earlier, all of us that were working on the development out of the field this summer and spring, working on this project, you know, we went through a lot of iterations of reinforcements in various places to just make it stiffer, stronger, better, faster. And I think what we came up with is a real winner. It just flies so precise. You know, going out there and like we're talking about doing point rolls or slow rolls, it just does it so well. So it's a lot of fun to fly. It's a good flying airplane at you know, like I said, not just going fast. It can do sport flying if you want. You know, on 4S, it's only, you know, 100 miles an hour straight and level, but that's a fun setup to fly because it's so lightweight. It's a little bit floatier on landing.
Sure.
You know, so that you can experiment with it in that respect and just enjoy it for what it is. If you have some 5S's, you know, if you have a couple airplanes, maybe use 10S or something, you got a 5S pack, guess what? It'll work in that. So that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We also got a question there, Jason?
Yeah, so Peter Earl had a question about the Carbon Cub 2 and RealFlight 9. So actually what's in RealFlight 9 is the Carbon Cub S Plus, which is the earlier version of the Carbon Cub. And so it has the GPS installed in that iteration in the sim. And so you can't turn those functions off. But we will be working on an update down the road to add basically the Carbon Cub S2. And the benefit of that will be that you'll have iterations of it with and without the GPS. So right now you can't turn off the virtual fence because that's the S Plus model. But down the road we'll add the actual S2 model and you'll be able to do that. Oh, there's a good question.
Dog alert.
Woodford wants to be on the channel too.
Yeah, I thought it was like a delivery, but there's no one here. Unless somebody broke in and I can't hear it. No, about to. If somebody comes up behind me, yell at me. Steve,
aren't there people that swat people where they're playing video games online and then their frenemy or their enemy calls the cops on them and they bust into their house?
That's the thing. I think it's highly illegal, but that is a thing. I did see typical internet, but a guy who was like, I'm pretending to get abducted by people every day until my professor notices it. And so he has like his buddies come in and like take him away on the Zoom call for class.
Did it work yet or no? Still hasn't noticed it?
I don't know. I just saw the one video. It was pretty funny.
I wonder if the professor's view is like 100 people.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
All little squares. So how would you know?
Exactly.
That's funny. That's actually pretty darn funny, though. That sounds like something a college kid would come up with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So Oni had a good question here. What do you consider to be one of your most underrated airplanes? Maybe one you thought would do better, but didn't seem to capture the market attention expected. So I think it's a twofold question. I think there's airplanes we sell now that are still kind of under the radar. The Valiant is a great example. Everyone that has one loves it. It just is, maybe not as exciting. It doesn't have as many bells and whistles. It doesn't have lights. It doesn't have, 4S compatibility. It doesn't need any of those things. It's just a great flying airplane. And so I think that's a perfect example of a model that we still sell. That good news is it sells well enough we can keep selling it. Yeah. But a lot of people just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good-looking airplane. It flies incredible. I've flown it quite a few times. It's based on the larger Hangar 9 version, which I've flown and is also incredible. Don't you have one, Steve, or did have one?
I have the big Hangar 9 Valiant.
Yeah, exactly. So the Valiant's been a good flying airplane. I mean, it's a good airframe, and then doing it in foam, it's a simple 5-channel, nothing special airplane, but man, it does what you want it to. It doesn't have, like Jason said, a lot of bells and whistles, but that's actually a good thing sometimes. It's not complicated. It's easy. You just want to have a relaxing day at the field, not worry about, an EDF or something like that. That was your plane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great example of an underrated airplane, but we still sell it. I would say there's some airplanes that we've sold for a while now that haven't really done as well as we thought, and maybe they get discontinued before we'd like them to. I always thought some of the VTOL aircraft were kind of underrated because, they're harder to fly than regular airplanes or even your traditional multi-rotor, but they're just so neat and the functionality is really cool. So like the regular Convergence, the mini Convergence, I just don't think they sold as well as they could have. They were big hits out of the gate, but I think a lot of guys didn't appreciate the combined nature of them. And they weren't necessarily great airplanes or great multi-rotors, but they did a little bit of both, and I appreciated that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, we've had a lot of fun with both versions of the Convergence, absolutely. The Expert even, which is kind of in that same vein as a VTOL, but in a very different kind of setup, which... I loved the way that plane flew just kind of as an airplane. You could have some fun. You can do those weird flat spins with it. I really enjoy that one more so even though than the Convergence.
Yep.
And again, part of it was a simplicity, just 2 servos, nothing really crazy going on with it. You didn't have 3 motors going on. It looked kind of like a flying wing. So, but you could hover it and land it vertically and do all these cool things that you couldn't do with a normal flying wing. So that's kind of why I appreciated it more than just having lift fans if you were on the Convergence type aircraft.
Yep, exactly. So RC Captain Mike Keller had another question. When can we hope the V1200 will start being shipped? And so they're on the way to us now, and we expect to start shipping them around the middle to end of October. So right now, hopefully around 10/14, give or take, maybe the week after that. In the meantime, there's 3 versions of the V1200 available for pre-order right now. We have the plug-and-play version, which of course does not have a receiver, but does have the motor, the 100 amp Smart ESC, the digital metal geared servos, the retracts, all that's in there. You do need a receiver, battery, and charger. We also have the bind and fly basic version, which is all those same things plus a 637 TA receiver. So you can just bind it to your compatible Spectrum transmitter. You'll have full smart telemetry data at your transmitter, which is phenomenal. And then also for pre-orders only. So between now and roughly 10/14, when we start shipping the airplanes out, we have a battery combo available. So it's the bind and fly basic version plus a 6S 5,000 milliamp 30C smart battery for half price. And I've already seen a lot of pre-orders come through on that combination because you're getting a $110 battery for 55 bucks, and it's a great battery. And on top of that, it's the perfect battery for the airplane. It basically is the right weight, the right size, the right everything to perform well. So
yeah, I would say that would be 99.9% of our testing was done with, obviously the plane would withstand flying on 4S, so we weren't too concerned about stress testing on 4S. It was, typically at the maximum speed you can get. So, I've been wearing it out basically 6S only, other than just getting, some speed runs on 4S to see what it did, made sure it flew well. There was no issues CG wise or weight wise, which I wouldn't think there'd be, being a lighter system, in the air. One thing I do want to mention about the V1200, which is a little different, is we've actually included the cooling fan on the ESC, which is kind of different when you power up the airplane and you hear a motor whirring. So just an FYI on that one.
Yeah, that is a weird sound. Not something you expect to hear these days in an airplane. So it's, again, only a couple weeks away, guys. Part of the reason we usually would have waited a little bit closer to the release to announce it, but we had to announce it today with RealFlight because it's in RealFlight. So starting next week on October 1st, everybody who has RealFlight 9 will get that free update to RealFlight 9.5. You can get Real 9.5 in stores starting next weekend. You can buy it online next week, and you'll be able to then fly the V1200 before you can buy it. So it's a very rare opportunity that we don't normally get with a lot of models. You'll have a couple week window there where it'll be in RealFlight, but you won't be able to get your hands on it yet. So it's kind of a nice change of pace there. Christopher Fletcher had a question about the Mini Aeroscout. Does it have integrated battery telemetry? No, it does not. Mini Aeroscout is a pretty simple airplane. It does not have SAFE. It does not have Spectrum technology. It does not have telemetry technology. We did that intentionally to keep the price under $100. But it's a very durable airplane that flies great. Not quite as fun to fly as its big brother, which I don't know if that's Steve or I think that's Steve flying the. Oh yeah, look at the gear it flexed. You see that? That's so cool.
That was cool. It flexed big time.
Yeah, so this thing flies just like the real deal. It's amazing flying airplane. Not the best looking airplane. Definitely not the sexiest model in the world, but man, does it get the job done.
I still have one in my
collection. Oh, yeah, I saw that coming.
Just not
only that, it is a trainer, but it is a fun airplane to fly. I mean, it will do some pretty interesting maneuvers for a trainer, and I think that's something that's underrated on a lot of our trainers, especially like stuff like the Apprentice. That airplane is a great kind of aerobatic airplane if you start playing with it. So, that's one thing I like about what we do is, we don't just fly these as trainers. We fly them as somebody who, trained with it, but now they want to keep flying and get more experienced. It delivers on the aerobatic performance. We're actually out here messing with one of the big Aeroscouts today at the field when I was out there earlier today, and we were doing rolling circles and loops and trying to do knife edge, all kinds of stuff. Because
knife edge is very well.
Yeah, it's got a lot of side area, so we were just having a ball with it.
And it's easy to land. Piece of cake.
Yeah. The only thing I would say when I was shooting the video at the park that you can see with the little lake there, it was really difficult to slow it down. It kept wanting to just fly. It's actually a pretty efficient airplane. You got that clean nose. You don't have a prop on the front, so a lot of that drag is being masked by the wing and other parts of the airframe. So it actually is a very good glider, and I had to do a couple different passes to make sure I could land it where we wanted it for the video.
Yes. Lee has a good question. Matt, how many projects are you currently working on at this moment, or do you just do one at a time?
I would say typically the vast majority of us product developers are probably between 6 and 8 projects at any one time. From early stages, some haven't even been started yet, and some are getting through the finish line, like the V1200 obviously is getting there. Got to make sure we can ship it on time and it gets to our customers. But yeah, we work on a lot of projects, so we're constantly busy. We're going from one project to another all the time. We're testing at the field. We're doing CAD work. I mean, you name it, we're doing it on multiple projects. And sometimes you get a heavier load, and I've noticed over 15 years at Horizon, it seems like everything hits at once. You'll have 3 projects with a sample shows up. You got to do all this proofing on our manuals and our box arts to make sure they look professional and good. Everything's correct. All the information's there. And then something else happens, and you're just which one do I gotta do all of them at once. So it's kind of interesting. I've had it the other way where 3 or 4 samples show up at the same time for various levels of flight testing. You know, a CNC sample will show up, the first tooled sample will show up, a photo sample will show up, and you got to do all these things at the field. But luckily, you're out the field and can do them all at one time. When you got to do CAD to flying that's what's the challenging part is balancing your time to make sure everything's correct about the product. You know, online, all the places that we put all our information, but that the product flies like we absolutely want it to. It's been tested thoroughly. We've beat on it. We've tried to break it. We've done everything we can to make it the best product we can.
Yeah, I think the goal in a perfect world would be that you have 6 or 8 projects and they're all a little bit at different points. So that way you're not overwhelmed by any one particular section of the development process. So like you said, you don't want all the samples to come at the same time because you can only fly so many at once.
Yeah,
and,
as long as it's during the summer and not in the middle of winter, that makes it a little bit nicer. But
true. Let's see. Here's a question. So GB Linden asked, Matt, what do you have to say to people with curbs on either side of the runway regarding the ground handling of this plane? Which I think he's speaking to the V1200.
So it definitely actually tracks extremely well on the ground on both takeoff and landing. The one thing that I wish we're going to adjust on the RealFlight version when you guys start flying that is right at the end of landing rollout, the rudder this tail wheel kind of loses effectiveness and it skids into kind of does a ground loop. The real airplane does not do that. 1000% does not. And it taxis a lot better than this version. For some reason, the adhesion of the tail wheel isn't quite correct, so we just need to adjust that one value and we'll probably get it there. But I want you to know that everything up to like the last 10, 15 miles an hour is pretty darn accurate in the way it feels. I do recommend always landing the airplane in high rates because it's a high-speed airplane. You have to limit the elevator throw at high speed. So high rate, you kind of need to almost get it buried by the time you touch down. So that way you get nice 3-point attitude. You're not going to try and pop off the ground and fly again. I have made some of the smoothest landings with this airplane, and I've also had some bouncers, but been able to keep it fairly straight. I will say that the airplane is pretty susceptible to crosswinds. So if you have curbs and there's a crosswind, you might not want to fly it that day.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Yeah, I mean, takeoff is probably no problem, but landing sometimes, until that tail wheel grabs the pavement or concrete, whatever you're flying off of, it can start weather vaning. And again, because it's a high-speed airplane, you have to limit the throws. Otherwise, it is just, at high speed, it's so sensitive you can't control it. You know, it'll do blinding rolls that you just can't keep up with. So, and it just doesn't feel right. So we recommend mid-rate elevator for flying, but high-rate elevator for landing, again, to try and pin that tail, get it having traction basically with the tail wheel. But I will say that's the one thing in the sim that does not match the actual aircraft.
Yeah, well, and that makes sense. There's going to be some of those little idiosyncrasies that it's hard to capture in the sim. But yeah, I think if you have curbs on either side, it's likely you'll end up hitting one of them at some point, especially like Matt said, if there's a crosswind. So if you can get to a regular runway where you got some runoff area, that might be a safer bet, at least for your first couple flights till you get used to it. After that, it's not hard to land. It's a little different style of landing. The tail wheel, if you guys look at the detailed pictures on the website, tail wheel is actually kind of in the rudder to help clean it up aerodynamically. And so the handling is a little impacted by that, where the wheel's located.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things we didn't want to have with this airplane is a bunch of stuff hanging out in the breeze causing drag. Our goal was to make it as fast as the V900 or faster, which we got to. But the V900 has no gear. It doesn't have flap servo control horns and stuff hanging out in the breeze. It doesn't have gear doors that, while it's clean when they're retracted, there's still brakes there that cause a little bit of drag. You got the retracts that aren't, they just, all that stuff causes a little bit more drag. And to have a tail wheel as well hanging off on a piece of music wire was just not going to cut it. So we wanted to integrate that in. As you can see in some of the detail photos, there's actually a bolt that is right there at the bottom, so it's not going to tear the hinges or anything off your rudder. It actually gives pretty well. The tail keeps flying pretty long, which is why I recommend kind of trying to 3-point it as much as you can to get that tail low and get that tail wheel gripping. Because again, the rudder is small. It's a high-speed airplane. It's not a 3D airplane with a massive rudder that is easy to control and with crosswinds. Even Ali was saying, a lot of the pylon racers he's flown, and he's flown a lot of them, and some of them had retracts, none of them had flaps, and they were a bear on the ground. I mean, you were lucky to steer straight on takeoff because they had so much torque and they were just so designed for speed. He's like, here's an airplane that goes fast, but is manageable on the ground. It's not anything too difficult other than maybe a slightly heavily loaded warbird.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So Webb Thomas has a good question. What is the best mixture of both high performance but no worry plane that is a good only plane for someone who doesn't have enough money to buy two?
Turbo timber.
Yeah, it's really hard to beat the Timbers. Whether it's and when you say high performance, it's hard to know what you're saying there. Maybe Webb Thomas, you can clarify on that, or Thomas Webb, maybe it is. But either way, I would say that when it comes to 3D flying, the Timber X is great. You can do STOL and slow. Obviously, with the Night Timber X, you can fly at night too. Then you have all the control and power to do 3D flying, which I think is high performance flying. And even the Turbo Timber now with nailed it.
Before I hit the very top of the wing, it was pretty spectacular.
Turbo Timber is. Oh, did you helicopter it?
Yeah, it was. It's like it too.
So the Turbo Timber on 4S is pretty darn fast, really good vertical. It's hard to beat all around for a lot of things. Of course, it has floats as well. Now, if you're looking for something that's more, I don't know, high performance as in speed, then yeah, certainly the V1200 fits that bill because you can slow it down, you can cruise slow, you can do aerobatic flying, and you can also rip it, unbelievable speeds. Unbelievable. So, speaking of, for those that don't know, and some guys already probably do know this, we have one wing. We have a Timber with one wing.
Okay,
land it.
We can do it.
You can do it.
All the rudder.
You can do it.
I'm using all the rudder and all the
on the runway.
Okay, jeez. All right.
So, if you want to hear kind of a funny story, I used to. I mean, I guess this is kind of not what we were talking about, but I had a Aerofly simulator many, many years ago. I got a copy of it, and there was a thing you could do where you could hit the fence and knock off parts of your airplane on one of the flying fields. But it only had a time limit of 60 seconds. So you had 60 seconds to get an airplane down. And I remember I had downloaded a Mike McConville Extra 300, I believe, and it was one in the silver, yellow, and white scheme that I just love, and black scheme that I just love the look of. And that was my thing to do, is do knife edge passes, knock off one wing, and try and land in 30 seconds. So, you could probably do that on this one as well. I just got to find the right spot to knock off a wing, get it set up, and have some fun trying it. It actually saved me with a real airplane. I had an airplane with wings that slid onto the side of a fuselage. It was a 3D airplane. And the way the wings were held to the fuselage was with rubber bands. Well, that day I didn't use enough because I hadn't flown the airplane since I lived in New Mexico. I just moved to Champaign. It was one of the first times at the Champaign field here where we are.
And you flew it anyway.
And one of the guys who ended up in product support when we became great buddies said, "How does it spin?" I said, "Oh, it's great." So I put it in a spin, and one of the wings slid out just a little bit, turned about 20 degrees, and then punctured the anti-rotation tube back into the covering of the fuselage.
Wow.
So now
And it felt like flying a missing wing airplane, and I managed to plop it down in the tall grass on the far side of the field, basically unbroken. I broke one tiny little part off, and it was like 2 seconds of CA and done. It was fixed, and a little patch where the tube poked in. But sometimes trying to fly and land with a problem, we actually have fun when we were flying at the office. We would hit the F button, which is the failure button, and it knocks off parts of your airplane, and you see how long you can fly as you keep knocking off parts of your airplane. It's amazing fun, and it's great skill training for anything ever happens to your airplane.
Yes. So like you guys just heard Matt say, when you're in RealFlight, just press the F button. A random thing will fall off the plane. Sometimes it's the wheel, which is no big deal. Sometimes it's a control surface. Sometimes it's one wing panel, one stab. But landing after one of those major components come off, or one of those major airframe parts comes off, is a good challenge. Something worth practicing.
There we go. I got the white done.
That didn't last long. That's probably how most people are in real life if that ever happens. So, So here's as Steve presses the F button, each time something will fall off.
So yeah, I'll get the stab. Where's the wheel?
Wing gone.
And sometimes, again, it's quick and it's painful, and it's different with different aircraft too. That's the wild part. Some aircraft, an aerobatic aircraft can lose a wing, and you can get it in knife edge, and it's much more controllable than something that has a lot of coupling to it with rudder.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Jordan had a good question. Are we planning to add the new Blue Angel to RF 9.5, basically the F-18 80mm? And so at the moment, no. We do have limited resources on how many official models we can put out. So, a lot of people don't know this, but developing a model for RealFlight is not as simple as just plug in the airplane parameters and make it look right and go. We literally take the 3D CAD from the airplane, the real airplane, loaded in the simulator. An artist goes in and models the skin detail, the surface features, the trim scheme, the wheels, the color and shape of the tires, all these little details. That takes many, many hours. Then we actually load in the AS3X and Safe Select software that we have for the real model. But from there, we have to tune the physics within the simulator to make sure. And usually they fly pretty close right out of the gate. I'd say they're most of the way there. But then at that point, flight testing has to happen with the engineers at Knife Edge and also our product developers here at Horizon. And this can happen over a course of a matter of weeks. And basically, in the end, it comes down to we can do about roughly 2 official RealFlight models per month, give or take. So that's why you guys can see that, now we've got, and when I say 2, sometimes that includes variations. Like if there's one with and without floats, they fly different. The floats have to be modeled different, so that counts as 2. So that's why every year we come out with about a dozen to 15 new models with variations of some of those models because we can't just keep cranking models out. So we have to prioritize. And we look at all of our airplanes that have come out in the last year, and we say, hey, this one's super popular. Everybody's going to want it in the simulator. This one's pretty popular. A lot of people want to try it, and we'll put those in. The ones that don't make the cut are usually ones that we were kind of on the fence about. And so for that reason, the F-18 is not in this time. But if enough people ask for it, we might put it in the next iteration.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're nearing the end of our hour here. I know I've got a meeting to get to, but I know we're usually closing up in an hour. Are there any last questions? We had a couple more questions on the update, which if you guys missed it, of course, the update to RealFlight 9.5 from RealFlight 9 is free. So to make sure to note that, we should have put that as like a scrolling bar on the stream there, Jason.
Yes, we should have. Oops.
And
I
then
thought about it earlier.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we usually don't open up the set. We're actually going to be ending up here in a second here, Experimental RC. We've tried to open the sessions before, but it always gets a little hectic, especially on the live. But maybe in the future we'll just have a fun fly where everyone can join us. Well, thanks for sticking around for the full hour, everybody that was here. Hopefully we answered all your questions. Matt, thanks so much for your time, man. I know you're busy, and I know it's a nice day outside, so hopefully we didn't take you away from testing too much stuff.
Not too bad. I got some stuff to do on the work computer anyway, so gonna start getting right back to it and keep going from there.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, there you go. Well, I think there's a couple more questions rolling in here, but May Walker said, "Can we look for an amphibian? Something from the golden age?" Maybe.
Yeah, we can't say on that kind of thing, unfortunately, too far out. But yeah.
I will say
the
funny thing is a lot of us developers and all of us are into aviation, and there's tons of projects we want to do. Trust us, we have more ideas than we can actually develop, so we just got to make sure we're doing the best thing for the market, the thing you guys want. So if we get a lot of feedback on something, we'll absolutely look into it, and you never know what's coming down the road.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I saw one more question here I wanted to answer for Thomas. He was asking if we're going to have more airplanes with the higher density EPO foam. And so it will be dependent on the model and the needs of the model. And so we won't put it into every airplane because it does weigh more. And that does have a negative impact on certain airplanes' flight performance. So the Crescendo Evolution has the higher density EPO and the V1200 because they're both very fast and you can put a lot of G's on the airframe. And we wanted them to be as stiff as possible. And they didn't mind some of the extra weight. So not everything will get that, but some will.
I will say one thing that is the most remarkable for me about the Crescendo is it was a project I did originally under Hobby Zone.
Trainer.
And as a safe trainer, did not as good as we wanted. people just, we thought, people were buying ready-to-fly Radians back in the day. We thought, hey, here's a ready-to-fly 4-channel airplane with safe. It'll be perfect. And it did okay, but had a cult following, but didn't really go that well. When we did the Park Zone version, it did better, and now I'm really excited for the E-Flight version. It's probably, I think, the only airplane that's been in all 3 brands for electric flight. So that makes me kind of proud that it started out as something, and now it's something completely different than it started as. That's really cool for me.
Yeah, it was underrated. It's not anymore. Now people know.
It's very cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining today. Thanks everybody that tuned in. Get out there and pre-order RealFlight 9.5 if you haven't, or go out and buy RealFlight 9 and get the free upgrade when it's ready. So now's the time to get a RealFlight 9 from your dealer, on Steam, from Horizon Hobby, wherever you buy your hobby products. And we'll see you on the next one. Next week we'll be doing a RealFlight or a hangout. Week after we'll do RealFlight Live. So guys, thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Jason, Matt, thanks so much for tuning in and joining me. And we'll see everybody later.
Absolutely.
So Craig,
have a great one, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
I'll let Craig take us offline.